Steuern sind Raub, Leute. Ich habe bereits angekündigt, dass ich bezüglich der Libertarian Party National Convention einen Amerikaner zu Gast haben werde, der mir ein wenig über die Geschehnisse vor Ort berichtet. Und das Gespräch, das folgt jetzt gleich im Anschluss. Ich möchte bloß noch ein paar Vorbemerkungen machen, weil unser Gespräch erneut auf Englisch erfolgen wird. Ich gehe irgendwie immer gleichzeitig davon aus, dass alle Leute sowieso Englisch können und andererseits, dass es Menschen abschreckt, wenn Leute dann auch Muttersprachler hören wollen, aber die libertäre Szene ist in den USA nun mal am größten und dementsprechend ist das für mich eigentlich eine ziemlich große Sache, diese Leute zum Gespräch auf meinem winzigen deutschen YouTube-Kanal zum Gespräch zu bewegen. Die Kontakte entstehen für mich alle durch Lukas, mit dem habe ich vor einiger Zeit bereits ein Ferngespräch über das New State Project in New Hampshire geführt. Das Gespräch ist auf Deutsch, ich verlinke das unten in der Videobeschreibung als allererstes. Dennis Pratt wird im Laufe des Interviews über die Libertarian Party, die libertäre Bewegung, im Allgemeinen die Libertarian Party National Convention vergangenes Wochenende sprechen, aber auch grundsätzlich viel über New Hampshire. Wer da noch gar nicht im Thema ist, dem empfehle ich vorher mein Gespräch mit Lukas zu gucken. Je nach Möglichkeit würde ich gern auch versuchen, auf mein Zielpublikum genauer einzugehen und entsprechend interessiert mich, was ihr mehr und was ihr weniger sehen wollt. Libertäre Strategien sind viel diskutiert und das Free State Project in New Hampshire ist aktuell eines der erfolgreichsten libertären Strategien weltweit. Deswegen plane ich eigentlich jetzt schon ein zweites Gespräch mit Dennis, inwiefern das Projekt in New Hampshire auf Deutschland oder Europa übertragen werden könnte. Wer dazu gleich Fragen oder Einwände hat, dem würde ich dazu bitten, mir das gleich in den Kommentaren mitzuteilen. Ich werde das auf jeden Fall vor meinem nächsten Gespräch nochmal zur Vorbereitung durchlesen. Und damit jetzt ohne weitere Umschweife zu meinem Gespräch mit Dennis Pratt, werdet unregierbar. Hello everyone, as I already explained, there will be another video in English. I have with me Dennis Pratt from the Free State Project in New Hampshire, and we are going to talk a little bit about the Libertarian Party National Convention because he was there and he is a member, like you just told me, of the Libertarian Party since over 40 years, right?
Yep, 42 years I've been a member of the Libertarian Party.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
Well, before we start to go into the Libertarian Party National Convention, which was a huge event, I think, maybe go a little bit on the way what was before, or how do you think about the Libertarian Party at all? What was your path? Have you always been a libertarian? What led you to the way? And how did you think the Libertarian Party National Convention the last weekend worked out? What was going on?
So when the Libertarian Party started, it was almost evenly split between people coming from the left and people coming from the right. You know, the people coming from the left were pretty much the anti-war faction, and the people coming from the right were the sound money faction. And I came from the left. I was a democratic socialist. So I was actually looking back, 1976 and 1980 would have been my two elections. And on both of those, I did not vote for either one. In America, we have a duopoly system where it's just Republicans versus Democrats, and they pretty much keep out third parties. Nonetheless, I voted for the socialists in both of those cases. So I was a fairly strong democratic socialist. I started working, I was always fairly entrepreneurial, and I started working at a startup. And my boss was a very staunch conservative. So he believed in those days a conservative meant that you had a lot of restrictions about personal behavior, what you do with your own body. You also were very much interventionist in wars and stuff. I was very much in terms of freedom for personal issues, non-interventionist, anti-war, but we need to take money from the rich and redistribute it. And we basically were coding every single day, 7 days a week for about 9 months. And we used to take breaks just by debating each other. And we would pick a topic and start debating. And what we didn't realize is that we were fairly unique in that both of us really wanted to be consistent. and
Mhm.
each of us kept catching the other person. Well, if you said this, then how can you say that? And it would bother us. And I would go home and I would complain to my soon-to-be wife. He said this, and I said this, and she'd be cheering me on. But then, honey, he started to say this other thing, and I don't know. And she got nervous. She would get really nervous. And so about 9 months later, we both kind of reformed our thinking and kept on changing our thinking. About 9 months later, I wanted to take a break around 11 in the morning, and I was thinking about a topic that we could possibly argue about, and I couldn't come up with anything. And I said, "So is that it? Do we agree on everything?" And he kind of was thinking about it for about an hour. He said, "I can't think of anything that we disagree over." And we thought we had invented something totally new. In those days, you never heard the term libertarianism.
Mhm.
You never heard the term libertarian. It was something that I hadn't even read any of the literature in this area. The literature was either socialist or kind of this kind of hardcore conservative. And about 6 months later, I was I was riding a bus in Chicago around the Loop in the center of Chicago, and there's a lot of snow on the bottom of the bus, and it's sliding back and forth, and water. And I'm like looking down, and there's this piece of paper floating in the water. And I'm reading it upside down, and I'm shocked. I pick up the paper and I jump out of the bus and I find a payphone, and I call up my boss, my friend now, and I said, "I know what we are. There's a word for what we are. We're libertarians."
When was that?
That was 81, 82. So that would have been the winter
82.
of
Okay.
81, 82. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And about 3 months later, I went to my first Libertarian Party meeting. I was so excited. Because I had started reading things, and all of a sudden I had a term for this, and I could get materials, and there's a bookstore that had this stuff in New York, and I could order things, and I was just so excited. And I went to the meeting, and I have to say I was so disappointed. I was so shocked, because the people who were there were very autistic, very nerdy. Almost all of them were coming from the conservative side. None of them were excited. I mean, I was excited about this as a way of giving us everything that socialists wanted, except that we would never have to use violence to do it. And I was like, oh my God, we can save the poor, we can save the blacks, we can, and I just was like so excited about this beauty. And I walked in, and all they could talk about was tax cuts, and and that just bored the heck out of me. So I spent years trying to convert socialists to libertarianism with very bad results. I did stay in the Libertarian Party. I was I went to the convention in 1988, which pitted Ron Paul. Ron Paul he's actually a lifetime libertarian, and spoke at this convention as well. But he's in the House, or he was in the House as a Republican, and he was running against an American Indian named Russell Means, who had taken place in a violent demonstration called a Wounded Knee against the American government. And I was a Russell Means. I had actually supported Ron Paul with money for his prior to election runs, but I loved Russell Means's message. He was, "Do you not understand, white men, that what the government is doing to you is what the government did to American Indians, that destroyed us as a people? It destroyed our souls. It destroyed our spirit. It made us steward. It made us little peons of taking care of welfare people of this powerful government, and we have no way of actually standing up as men anymore. Don't let them do this to you. And I was thinking, damn, that's a good message. And of course, Ron Paul was, end the Fed, get back to gold.
One, yeah, sure, and this is what catched me too. In not quite in 2012. That was too early for me. I think I became a libertarian in 2018. But Ron Paul was what happened before, and he convinced other people in Germany as well, and. There's this one guy, he's called Charles Krüger. He already withdrew everything from YouTube he ever did, but he was convinced by Ron Paul and the Ron Paul movement. And if you're now saying Ron Paul is debating the other libertarian guy, what were the differences in these two opinions?
It was really just a matter of emphasis. I mean, both of them were libertarian.
Yeah. Okay.
And Russell Means talked about how government destroys human spirit, how it destroys the will of achievement, of entrepreneurship, of picking oneself up. Ron Paul spoke about taxation and the money supply of sound money. I went back to school. I studied economics. I went to MIT. I studied economics there. So I understand the arguments. I just find it boring as opposed to the spirit of mankind, which is really what speaks to my heart. It's more of a personal taste. It's kind of where I get excited about. I thought it would be something that would excite the socialists. I was a leader in the socialists, and I thought they would excite them. I remember one night I was trying to explain this to some friends of mine, and we were, it was a late night bong session. Do you know what bong is? We're smoking pot. And we're, very late talking and ideas flowing and stuff. And I'm trying to let them understand what I'm talking about. And finally, the guy whose apartment I was staying in, he stopped and he just stared at me and goes, oh, you're the enemy. I was saying, okay. No, I'm not the enemy. There's this other way of being. There's this other way that we can treat each other. You're the enemy. I thought I was going to get kicked out of the apartment that night.
You just said that you failed miserably and convincing other social democrats to become libertarians, right? And I suppose that is a completely different thing. I can get why leftists are not interested that much in tax cuts. But on the other side, you told me you were an entrepreneur, so you probably had to pay taxes a lot, and that must have annoyed you. I mean, this is one of the most serious things in Germany. We are taxed to death, and the other point that still came to my mind was you talked about "End the Fed" from Ron Paul, but on the other hand, isn't Ron Paul famous for like two sentences like "End the Fed" and "No more foreign wars" or "Bring our troops home"? So this must be what addressed the leftists as well, didn't it?
Yeah, but or
was it already too late?
I mean, when he did in 2008, he did that the Rudy Giuliani moment. Yeah. Where Rudy Giuliani was talking about the 9/11, and they cut away to Paul, and Paul basically talked about how we were attacked on 9/11. The U.S. was attacked because of what we had done in the Middle East, And that absolutely outraged all the Republicans. And Giuliani was so outraged. He was, how dare you? I want you to retract what you've said. And he was very indignant. And Ron Paul doubled down, and he he was booed. And and frankly, that's normal for libertarians to be booed.
Yeah, I know.
And especially in those days. But because he didn't back down, the people who were watching this on television, most of whom had never, ever heard this. And remember, by then we had been in 6 years of war, 5 or 6 years of war. And most people, libertarians, of course, understood this. I understood this from day one. But the normies didn't have any understanding. They thought this attack had come out of the blue, that had nothing to do with decades and decades and decades of messing around with these different countries and supporting torture and dictators, and just horrible things that our government was doing by stealing our money through taxation and inflation and debt, by stealing our labors and then taking them overseas and doing really evil things with them. So that's what really started the Ron Paul movement. But Ron Paul always could talk to those issues. It just wasn't the thing that he started with, and it wasn't the thing that he emphasized. He emphasized sound money. He emphasized we have to get out of the Fed. Now, what part of the reason was because it funds these wars without the pain of direct taxation, right? It funds it through inflation, which you just don't see. You don't notice it. And then when they do it really bad, that's when you start noticing it. But it's been done it's been done throughout that period. And it's just a constant drain on the labor that you've produced.
Yeah, so far is it is a few times ago. I'm not sure when I saw this, but I saw I think Scott Horton at Saifedean Ammous at the Bitcoin Standard podcast, and he was told he told pretty much the same. He said, I have been a libertarian all the time, but till the Ron Paul movement, a lot of Republicans started to realize that the foreign wars are, they lived their whole life being a conservative and being in the army, and they were told like they never did anything wrong. And suddenly they were confronted, and they, like you said, they were completely furious that there is a person who is a candidate for the presidency, and they telling them what we did for decades was wrong. And now they are, well, I have so much honor and I'm proud for my flag and for my country and I do this and that. And suddenly you are told like what you did maybe for generations was completely wrong. And of course you have to proceed a message like that, I guess, right? And but now, don't you think a lot of Republicans are convinced that it's no longer the time for foreign wars? Because I see this from a person. Of course, there are still American-loving people who think, and they still probably can be convinced to go to war into another country. But this is now a certain point, I think, with Israel and the and Iran. So I think there's even though Trump says he doesn't want to support it or not that much, I'm not sure about it, and Trump might forget what he said before the election. I never know what he's up to. I'm not thinking that the United States will put too much effort into Ukraine. They fund the war with money and with money of American taxpayers, of course, but I don't think they would send troops there. That would be too much. But with Iran, I'm, as a European, still worried that this is a continuing thing. I'm not sure how the mind of a lot of conservatives and Republicans changed since this Ron Paul campaign 2012.
Yeah. Well, libertarianism is still a very, very, very small movement here in the U.S. It's much larger than you have in Germany, but still a very, very small movement. I think it's wrong to think that just because a conservative might align with us on one or two issues that they become libertarian.
I'm absolutely on your point with
and
that.
You've actually brought up a point that I think is really important. There's this cognitive dissonance that occurs. Libertarianism is such a break in the current paradigm of humanity, right? We are all raised in government schools, and we are told, it's drilled into us, this government propaganda. And then we watch TV shows and read newspapers and listen to radios that are all fed government propaganda. And it's just inundates, and you talk to people and they all are repeating and parroting the propaganda. And then you meet that one isolated libertarian, and he says a couple of things. He says, everything that you believe up until now is wrong. What you actually think are great goods are actually incredible evil. The people who have been teaching you this have been lying to you. And the things that you've been doing are actually evil, and you have to stop it, and you have to change your behavior. And this big cushy thing that you think is protecting you is actually there as a parasite on you. And that is just too hard to sell. I mean, I'm part of the Free State movement. I'm in New Hampshire, and I spent 36 years trying to convert people. I'm actually a pretty good converter. There's a site here in the U.S. called Quora, Quora, Quora. And I was the #1 writer on libertarian topics there for 4 years. I was eventually deplatformed, but I was basically just talking about libertarian ethics. I don't give much credence to conversion. I think that conversions is just too hard. What a lot of people think of is, I kind of argued with this person for 3-4 years, and he finally gave in on these 2 points, and that's he's now libertarian, and he's not libertarian yet. To be libertarian in my book, you have to actually understand the libertarian ethic that you own your own body. You own your own body, which can then be taken over into you own your associations, your labor, and the products of your labor. Once you're there, then you have to be able to apply that to a number of areas. And some of those areas you actually want the evil to support you, right? There's this government program, and it's ethically it's wrong, but boy, I'm getting this benefit. So to be libertarian, you have to kind of go, and I want to get rid of that program. That program that benefits me, that program's evil, and we have to get rid of it. So I think it's just too hard a conversion thing. You're propagandized since birth. You're propagandized in schools. Your parents, you're then told that it's evil, and then you're told that everything that you have believed in terms of policy actually has the opposite effect. Welfare keeps people down. Regulation destroys value and gives you far fewer products and fewer choices and less innovation. You go through all the litany of things, and it's just too bizarre a world for people who have been propagandized for this. So what we do in the Free State Project, we've kind of given up on conversion. We say, if you're libertarian, God bless you. Thank you for doing all that hard work. And you deserve to live in a liberty society. You do not deserve to spend decades in an authoritarian society being scorned, being dismissed, being told that you're evil for actually being, a good person, for not hurting people and not stealing their stuff. You deserve to live in a liberty society. And the one thing that we need more than anything else in a liberty society is libertarians. So all we're doing is we're consolidating libertarians into one small state. And there, because we have libertarians, not for any other reason, just because we're pulling libertarians from all over the world, all over the United States, and putting them all in one small area. Now it's a liberty society. We had I ran PorcFest for a while, and one of my favorite debates that we had at PorcFest was that it is easier to turn a heterosexual man homosexual than it is to turn an authoritarian into a libertarian. And I actually agree with the resolution.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
yeah, because I think that there are just characteristics that are absolutely critical to be able to make that journey over right now in this particular paradigm, in this zeitgeist. Zeitgeist.
yeah.
Zeitgeist. I can't even say it the German way. It's just too hard. And those characteristics, whether they're genetic, which I do think there are genetic components here, it's a set of items that you have to actually be able to make that conversion over. And even then, we have to catch you at the right time. We have to catch you at the right age. You have to be stubborn enough. Well, I guess that's one of the characteristics, to stick with it and go, okay, I'm still going to work it, even though all my friends are making fun of me, even though it goes against everything I believed, even though I'm going to be isolated. I'm going to stick with it and actually make that conversion. So I think it's very, very hard. Anyway, the Libertarian Party is one of the strategies, though, that assumes that if we get people elected into office, that by the election, by having this figurehead, we can actually convert people. I no longer subscribe to that. I think the best you can do is to the few people whom you can awaken, you can say, hey, there's this other thing, look into it. And you might be able to bring them over to one of the concentration programs and actually have them live in a liberty society, build a liberty society, and have a liberty society.
You just mentioned it's I definitely know what you're talking about when you're saying I'm like discussing for weeks and months and years with one person who's like an authoritarian, and he maybe has been convinced for 2 points, but not the whole thing. And being the exclusive owner of your body is what actually is libertarian. But people don't want to hear that. People don't want to listen to that. People want to go to elections, make a cross on a piece of paper, and then someone else should solve all their problems for them. This is the way people think about politics. When I do my Of course, I discuss from time to time with other people, but sometimes I realize that people know stuff and they are open-minded, and then I can convince people about certain topics, but they are already on their path. And to the people who want to talk politics, who want, give me my leader, and I don't want to do anything at all, I always try to tell them, this is not libertarian. This is not libertarian what you're talking about at all. If you are not going into the lifestyle of thinking about, I am the exclusive owner of my physical body, and you are as well, and I want to respect that. I want to respect property rights and everything else. Don't get into politics. There's nothing we have to talk about, but people always take this shortcut. And so maybe we could find our way to the Libertarian Party National Convention right now. I'm not sure how many libertarians in the United States, maybe even in the Libertarian Party, already got that thing. I mean, I guess we two both know the basics. But there are always other people who think like, yeah, I heard this and that and rumors, and I now want to go to the Libertarian Party. And suddenly they make all these crazy interventionist ideas, and they think, well, there and there is taxes not that bad, and there is a little bit of, I don't know, rent control not that bad. And then you have to start to throw these people out again. So by saying that, I think it's completely the right tactic to, I'm not convincing you people, but I have this free libertarian project here, and if you already know what we are thinking about, you can come to us. But if you don't know, we don't want to have to do anything with you. So I think that's the right way. But how many people do you think are still like in this mindset of politics, give me a good leader and anything like that?
Yeah, I was sitting in the Libertarian Convention for the 3 days, and the last day was actually more like 2 days, back to back. And I was thinking that this was like kind of some sort of government psychological operation. I was just saying,
Yeah, sure.
if let's say that you were concerned about a nascent liberty movement, a liberty movement cropping up, and every once in a while, you get these libertarians popping up, but they pop up kind of randomly, dispersed in the population. What do you do to make sure that they fail? Well, you give them an impossible task, and you tell them that that's the only way that they can actually create liberty. Now, you kind of go, well, okay, so what if we get this guy elected here? What's going to happen? Well, nothing's going to happen because everyone else is authoritarian. Let's face it, everyone's still authoritarian. You get one guy elected, he's still authoritarian.
I have a fun anecdote for exactly that topic, because there is one of the first anarchists in Germany at all. He was already an anarchist long time, decades before I've been born already. His name is Stefan Blankertz, and he was at the Libertarian Party convention in, I think, 1973 or 74, when there was a discussion between Samuel Edward Konkin and this guy from a Libertarian Party of Norway. And he told that story that at the beginning, all the libertarians were on this path on, we eventually get our politician. He can get rid of all taxation and get rid of every government program and everything. And later then Samuel Edward Konkin went on the stage and tell them, well, this is exactly what I would do to them if I would be a blood-sucking parasite of the authoritarians. And I would give him the power and give them immediately a task he can never do in a successful way. He could only, like the trolley problem, right? He can only fail in both ways. And it's pretty much what happened, and why Samuel Edward Konkin was winning the discussion. He convinced the whole Libertarian Party that just libertarian policy is not possible. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the libertarians get very busy because it's just so much work to get on the ballots. We have to try to force our way on the ballots, and it's extraordinarily expensive. You stand out in the rain for days and days getting signatures, and of course they have to have them all checked, and they throw out a whole bunch, and then you have to go and get some more signatures, and you finally get on the ballot, right? But you've expended all your time and energy. All your volunteers are exhausted. Your money's exhausted. But now you have to actually start your campaign, right? But you want to start the campaign in such a way that you can stay on the ballot. And usually that means that you're going to get 4 to 6%, depending on which state it is. If you get 4% in an election, you stay on the ballot. What they don't tell you is that as soon as you start hitting that 4%, they'll raise it to 5%. Everyone's going, oh, you have to keep 4%. So it's you don't say anything out of the Overton window, right? Because if you say something too radical, well, you might not get 4%. And then you have to go back out on the rain. So
Mm.
I call it the hamster wheel of death. You know how
Yeah.
the hamsters are running on this wheel, and they're so much energy and stuff, but they're just going around and around and around the same place. They're not going anywhere.
Mm.
And it's just to expend resources, waste the lifetimes of Liberty people, and spend all of our resources. And what we say here in New Hampshire is get off that hamster wheel of death, because here we're actually building real liberty. And we can talk at some other point about my experiences about the free state, but it's just so different. All that energy, all that money, all that lifespan, you could actually spend and build tangible advances in liberty. And New Hampshire is the number one freest state in the country. We're accelerating faster than the other states, and that's because the energy of the liberty people here is actually advancing liberty as opposed to just spinning in place. But you talk to a lot of the people in the other states. I call them the authoritarian 49, right? We have 49 states that are not New Hampshire. So the authoritarian 49, and they don't really want to hear that, because they want that dream that, if they can just get on the ballot, and if they can have just the right candidate, and if they say just the right thing, well, maybe some days, decades from now, they'll get into office, and then they'll change everything, and all the authoritarians will go, that's fantastic. I'm no longer authoritarian. I'm now libertarian. Let's keep doing this, right?
Sure.
And I'm going, I just don't see it, guys. I just don't understand your model here on how this works. So I was watching all the energy and time. So we had almost 1,000 delegates. We had another 200 or 400 alternates there. They each were spending something like $200 a night at the Hilton. They all had flown in from all over the United States. And you start calculating how much opportunity cost is in that room. And you take all that energy, all that lifespan, all that money, and you transfer it to the project that we're doing here in New Hampshire. And it's just like, all of a sudden you have like this. It's going to be a small enclave. It's just one little state, but that state's just going to explode with liberty. But if you diffuse it out across 49 states that have no chance of really even winning anything, and you get the newbies coming in, and they only have to do this for 2 or 3 election cycles, and usually they give up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only a certain amount of times that you bash your head against the wall, trying like heck, thinking that this is going to make something. And then you get 0.7% of the vote, 0.7% of the vote. And you go, oh man, that was a lot of work. Oh, but the reason why you got 0.7%? You didn't work hard enough, right?
Yeah.
You got to spin that hamster wheel of death a lot harder. Oh, okay. Well, next time I'll really go hard, And so then you go one more time, and 2 or 3 more times like that, and you just go, okay, this liberty thing's impossible. I'm just going to give up. And that's what makes me the most concerned about this, is I don't want to lose those people who actually can be libertarian and stick to it long enough to make it through and become libertarian. Those are 2 precious resources. The government wants to destroy you. We want to preserve you. We want to give you something where, we were talking a little bit earlier about how, in the free state, we have different people doing different things. Lucas introduced me. His work is trying to tell people in foreign countries about the Free State Project. We have another man who returned back to law school, and he's going to be an immigration lawyer. And his job, his area of liberty activism is going to be helping foreigners move to New Hampshire. So my area is building community houses, and doing these big festivals. So we have all these people doing real work that actually produces real liberty. We're passing laws. We control the House pretty much, the New Hampshire House of Representatives. We're making inroads on the Senate. Someday we're going to actually control all the political centers, but we're doing it from the bottom up, right? So the Libertarian Party says what we do is we put in a leader, a political leader, and we make him, king of everybody, and then that will cause everybody to then become libertarian. We go, no, that's the wrong model. What we do is we bring all the libertarians together, and now all these people act, and eventually we take over the power, right? Yeah. So like we change the entire culture to the liberty culture, and now we have the power. So it's such a different model. I was watching the Libertarian Party this weekend. I felt so sad for it. If you look at the pictures of when Trump came and stuff like that, you'll see these signs that say "Move to New Hampshire." That's the New Hampshire delegation. we were there. A lot of it saying, "Hey, you don't have to be on this hamster wheel of death. You can actually make real liberty progress." Now, the other thing that we're doing is we're taking the lessons of the Free State and we're exporting it to the different states to help them not become free states because they're too big, right? There's not enough libertarians, but to like maybe pick a town and take that town, from dog catcher all the way up through mayor, the zoning board, the finance board, the school board, and the police department, and basically make that whole town a liberty town. I hope to be able to come back and talk a little bit about that project and how that might look like in Germany or another state, another country.
Yes, that's definitely a strategy we should talk about in more detail. Just for a short minute, because I think about this strategy. On the one hand, I would totally love to be surrounded by people who are libertarians, who respect property rights and everything. I mean, of course, there are festivals, there are certain events I go to, and I feel totally well among everyone who has the same mindset, right? And I love this. And so therefore I could, I can imagine how it is to feel to live in New Hampshire among the free staters who all in the most regards think like you. On the other hand, what do you answer about the criticism of people that you are too centralized? So you I don't know, give the federal government the possibility to destroy you, take you over, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, your choice is to be one person totally surrounded by authoritarians,
yes,
or one person with thousands and thousands of libertarians around you and surrounded by authoritarians. Those are our choices. We are a minority. So if you look at the gay migration to a city like San Francisco, right? So a person is born gay. There's a genetic component, supposedly. Like I think that there are genetic components to libertarian, and they're isolated in that town, and they're thought of as really weird. And they go, well, there's nothing weird about me. That's and they go, and they're mocked, they're belittled, they're bullied. And what they do is they migrate. They migrate to a place where they actually have the numbers. Now, all of a sudden, instead of operating here and feeling embarrassed and all that, they're operating here. They go, I'm okay. There's actually people around me and to support me and I can talk at this level. For libertarians, we're almost always talking at this level here. Do you think you own your own body? Is that, or does someone else, like a ruler, have a superior ownership of your body, right? And usually I can't even get off of that. You come here and you're already way up here, where people, everything here is assumed true. And now you're talking here, and it's just such a relief. And a lot of the stuff that we do here, a lot of people think that the movement is primarily for political purposes. It's really not. So much of what this is community. We have over 100 different groups doing all these different things. So if you are really into guns and shooting and things like that, you can do a shoot practically every day. If you're really into homeschooling,
expensive, I suppose.
there are people who homeschool. Well, there's one man here whom I know who has, I think it's something like 1,000 shots per day. That's his goal, is to do a year of it. It's just like this gigantic number of things.
Okay.
And he wants to become that level of expertise. So, it's not my cup of tea, but it's his. And he has a community here. It's a sub part of the community who love it. They support him, all that type of stuff. Homeschooling, homesteading, creating your own farms and things. Crypto. We're the #1 crypto place in the US. We do metals here. We have these things called gold backs, which is thin pieces of gold in plastic.
Talk to Lucas about that.
Yeah. And so, whatever the Liberty area is, we have groups around it. And then we have groups that are not even around Liberty. We have a group on rucking, where you have a backpack and you go hiking with weights, and so it's just a Liberty group that gets together. They have 15, 20 people. They go rucking. They're now they're doing this thing where they go rucking and they pick up garbage along the way. And the towns absolutely love it. And they're giving us like bags and stuff. And, they put stuff in and we leave it in various places and the town picks it up. And so, we're doing like good deeds and good acts, but we're also just having fun. There's a group called Stitch and Bitch, which is stitch, like knitting.
Yeah.
And bitch, like complaining. It's a bunch of women who get together. And they get together regularly. I think it's once a week, and they bring their crafts, and then they kind of gossip. Now, is it Liberty? I don't know if it's Liberty. A lot of the topics are Liberty, and you'll actually see other groups getting formed inside of Stitch and Bitch because they want to do something else, right? But it's just a way of building community. One of my biggest regrets, we homeschooled our daughter in the aughts and in the tens. But one of my biggest regrets was that we were still in an authoritarian state. So she had to stay camouflaged her entire life. And she's scared as hell of being exposed. So she doesn't, for me, my skin is thick enough. I'm okay with being ostracized. I'm okay with being ridiculed. I don't really care, especially when I know that I have the moral, ethical high ground. And so I'm like, but she is so panicked about it. And so I wish that she had grown up here where her friends would have all been Liberty friends. And it would just been like, well, of course, we respect you. Of course, we would never enslave you. Of course, just that whole idea. And so, she would go to the authoritarian states and go, why are you guys doing this to each other? That's insane, right? But we have kids here who are growing up in that environment. We didn't do it, and it's probably one of my biggest regrets in my life, that I raised a child, even though we homeschooled. I got her out of the government schools. We still raised her in an authoritarian state, and she had to hide all that time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's I would love to talk for hours again about the Free State Project. I think we should do that for another time. But right now, because it's a current topic, let's talk a little bit about the Libertarian Party National Convention. What was the in advance? What was going on? How was it planned that so many people? I think it's the first time that Donald Trump came, Vivek Ramaswamy, and John Robert Kennedy Jr. and I think Ron DeSantis was there as well. How come that so many people from the Republican Party and everything else came to the Libertarian Party National Convention?
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a big takeover of the Libertarian Party 2 years ago.
Yes.
So the Libertarian Party has always had these battles, and they go back to almost its formation. In 1980, there was a gigantic battle between the Koch brothers and what became the Cato Institute. So on one side,
Yep.
and Murray Rothbard and Lew Rockwell on the other side. And they really saw this, what is the purpose of the Libertarian Party? And, the Rothbardians were saying the Libertarian Party should be holding out this beacon of liberty and really should be offering that to the world. And the Koch brothers would say, no, we have to make kind of incremental changes. So, and that battle actually split apart the Libertarian Party, and it split apart Cato versus the Mises Institute. And those guys still don't even talk to this day. So that's 40 years later. They still don't talk. I understand that if you're in Cato and you cite a Mises fellow in your research, they'll fire you. I don't know that that's true. That's what I've heard, that you may not cite a Mises Institute fellow in your research.
That's crazy.
And that comes from that 1980 election battle over what the strategy will be. And, if you look at it, there's 25 different strategies for how to get to a liberty society. The third party election strategy is just one of them. The LP tries its best, but we've always had that pressure. We have the pressure, and that pressure I'm calling the pragmatic versus the principle.
Yeah.
Right. Pragmatic, let's just get incremental changes and stuff like that. And principle, no, let's hold on to the light. There's also another one, which is kind of, the party is the important thing. We need to follow the rules and make sure we look presentable and all the I's are dotted. It's kind of almost a wonk. I don't know if you know that term, but kind of very nerdy, very bureaucratic view versus an entrepreneurial guerrilla tactic of, hey, no, we've got to make a big splash and really kind of go big. So there's a number of other factions that have been going on for decades and decades. One group took over 2 years ago, and they weren't the wonk bureaucrats. They were more the entrepreneur. Let's get our message out. Let's do it in a big way. Let's, whatever we've done in the past is wrong. So let's try something different. And of course the bureaucrats are like, oh my God, we don't do it this way. It's terrible. And so what happened was the bureaucrats actually tried to starve the party of funding. So they sent out letters to all the donors and the members to say, don't contribute to the Libertarian Party. They're taking it on the wrong road and all this type of stuff. Well, what's beautiful about this is that the head of the Libertarian Party, who was part of this takeover group, she's so entrepreneurial. She said, okay, so you don't want to give us any money? I'm going to go ahead and make this thing the biggest splash ever.
And who said that?
This is the chair of the Libertarian Party. And she goes, so the bureaucrats, the wonkish side, were just so excited we're bringing her to her knees. She has no chance. She's going to be kicked out of office because she has no money, and this whole convention is going to be a catastrophe.
Yeah.
And what this one woman did was she went out and she basically did invitations to, Biden, to Trump, to I think Vivek actually offered once he saw everyone coming. He offered, but RFK to come and speak, and that brought all the press, and then also it caused everyone wanting to be part of this thing, and now all of a sudden, this thing that was going to be bankrupt the entire LP was spewing out cash. And of course, the bureaucrats are just really outraged now because they're going, not only has their plan to bankrupt the LP and get rid of these insurgents, but they're doing it all wrong.
Yeah. And it failed completely. So is that one of the I'm not sure if, since I'm only a libertarian for a few years, I'm not sure if I have ever heard about such a great success that so many different people liked. Trump was already president and he's up for another candidate. So is that like the biggest success from the Libertarian Party, or do you think there's been stuff in the history of the Libertarian Party that has been even more successful?
Yeah, well, and this is a big thing that I think a lot of libertarians ignore. The question is, what is the goal of the Libertarian Party, right? So you have to talk about what the goal is, right? So my goal for the Libertarian Party, and I'll just go ahead and disclose it, is get as many of the libertarians, the small L libertarians, the people who aren't part of the Libertarian Party, get them into the Libertarian Party at least. The Libertarian Party has always been a teeny tiny fraction of the libertarian movement, which is a teeny tiny fraction of the population. And you would all forever hear the libertarian movement say, "Oh, well, I'm a libertarian, but I'm not Libertarian Party." They always want to make that distinction. Yeah, I'm libertarian, but I'm not Libertarian Party, because those people are just useless. And it's actually kind of good because a lot of, like I said, there is this idea that it may be a psyop to destroy that libertarian movement, but we have so many people who are in the larger movement. So my goal is to kind of consolidate them and to then help them consolidate. If they're not going to consolidate in New Hampshire, then have them consolidate in smaller regions within their states, but actually create concentrations, like the gay San Francisco or like Chinatown.
You already mentioned that once before, but I'm not familiar with that. What's gay about San Francisco? What's happened there?
Oh, it's one of the gay capitals in the U.S. So it's very much a gay center. So if you were born in gay in central U.S., you'll be very, very unhappy unless you go to, you could go down to there's places in New York that you can go that are very gay friendly. San Francisco is very gay friendly. There's a number of places that are kind of these magnets. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with libertarians. Same thing, right? Yeah. If you're born a libertarian and you stay in an authoritarian town, you're going to be very unhappy. So you should go. Right now we have the state, but what we want to do is actually help create these small little enclaves around the country that a libertarian can go to. So that's my goal, but that's not the goal of a lot of the people. The wonks' goal is get on the ballot, right? That's the most important thing. And whether that serves any purpose or not, they totally ignore, or get votes. The best way to get a vote in an authoritarian U.S. is put an authoritarian on the ballot, at the head of the ticket, right? That's the best way of doing it. You get your own authoritarian, and he goes out and he promises, "I'm going to steal from those people and give it to you." Now we're going to get votes. I don't understand the purpose, right? So they have like these, different goals. I went around over the last couple of years and pulled out all the different goals that people stated that they wanted to have. And I have a list of over 50 different goals that people in the Libertarian Party, they say the Libertarian Party is to blank, right? And so I have a list of these 50 different things, over 50. And what I argue is that should be where we start our conversation, where we start saying, here are the different goals. You're coming to me, Andreas, and which of these goals, are you talking to? And I'm talking to these goals. Let's at least have a conversation about the goals, because the goals that we decide on will feed the strategy. And then the strategy, which strategy we choose, will feed what the tactics are. And then from the tactic, we can talk about how well implemented it is. Well, most of the people in the Libertarian Party, they assume a way that everyone shares their goals. They assume the only strategy. They assume the tactic, and all they can talk about is the implementation. This guy looked good on stage. This guy didn't look good on stage. And so they're missing the gigantic point. So in answer to your question, for the purpose of getting the name out, Libertarian Party, getting people aware that there is such a thing as the Libertarian Party, getting people to start asking questions about the Libertarian Party and saying, how are they different? Why would anyone be paying attention to them? This is by far the most successful convention in any of them, that whether I've been in them or even before I've been in them, and that was all because of the chair, of being entrepreneurial and being guerrilla and just going and saying, I'm going to be doing this, and ignoring the screeches of people from the old school Libertarian Party, who's just saying, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. We never have done that in the past. And she's going, we've always failed in the past. We have to do something different.
That's true. Yeah.
So I really respect that. Of course, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm on the entrepreneurial side. I'm a principled person, so of course I'm on the principled side. A big division in this in the LP is, do you like Ron Paul, or do you think Ron Paul's a jerk? We have a lot of people in the Libertarian Party, in the old school Libertarian Party, who dislike Ron Paul. And you might go, well, why would you dislike Ron Paul? And I think he's a hero. I think he's just one of the great heroes of mankind. So you can divide people just on that basis. But we had Ron Paul come and speak to us, and he gave. Actually, I think he gave one of the best speeches that I've heard him do. Usually he's a little bit rambling, but he actually gave a speech that had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a whole purpose. And I loved his speech. He gave it on Sunday. And it was just, it was a real joy to have that there. So I thought overall it was a great convention. It did a lot in terms of media coverage. It did a lot in terms of awareness. I'm coming back in a taxi, and I'm talking to the guy. We're talking about Stoicism and other philosophies. I mentioned I'm a libertarian. He goes, "Oh, I heard that they had a convention." I'm coming from the convention. He goes, "What do the libertarians believe?"
Yeah.
So it actually, people are kind of starting to go, oh, what is this? What does this mean? And I think that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Absolutely.
So earned media was absolutely off the charts. This convention. In terms of the old school versus the new school, the new school retained control of the Central Committee for the Libertarian Party, but they lost, the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate, and they're kind of more old school, more woke. We have to look presentable. We have to kind of give the right messages. Our concern is that the media likes us, whereas the candidate for the new guys that came in, the Mises, they call themselves the Mises Caucus. After Ludwig von Mises, the great Austrian
I'm
economist.
pretty familiar with that. Yeah.
So their candidate said, I know I'm doing my job when the media is trying to attack me.
Yeah.
Right? I do not want to be liked by the regime media. I
Yeah.
want them attacking me. So, so there's that whole thing, whereas, the old school goes, oh, this regime media said something bad about us. That's so terrible. And then there's other parts of the Libertarian Party that says, this regime media said something bad about us. Yes.
Yeah. so I think this is also the same way when you were talking about there are libertarians or people inside the Libertarian Party who don't like Ron Paul. That's pretty much the same opinion they have. I think they want to be liked by the media, and so they want to be a little bit woke, or maybe a lot woke. But they just want to be liked and not discriminate anyone else. And like you said before, Ron Paul is like, if they are talking bad about us, we double down and we just say and then now even more of that.
Yeah. So my affiliate is New Hampshire, and of course, because we're from the most radical libertarian part of the country, our libertarian affiliate is the most radical, but I mean most radical by a couple orders of magnitude.
Yes. Yeah.
So we went on Twitter when we took over. We had about 4,000 followers. We now, over a course of 2.5, 3 years, we have something like 65,000 followers now on Twitter, and we dwarf the giant affiliates. Right, the giant affiliate, the biggest affiliate was Texas. And they had the biggest following, and we basically just shot right past them because we make very bold statements. One of the first statements that we made was that you can learn more by having your kid not go to school and work, right, than you can in government schools. And we got blasted. Of course, it was a clever tweet. I don't have the exact words, but we got blasted by everybody. Certainly the regime. The regime media came after us. How dare you say this? Don't you love our teachers? Schooling is so important for the wee children. And even the previous Libertarian Party presidential candidates came after our affiliate. That doesn't represent libertarianism, Well, guess what? The people loved it.
Yes. Yeah.
And we got a lot of earned press from that. So we're definitely on the side of, hey, the regime doesn't like us. That's good news, right? That's our attitude. And so they come after us, and now everyone's kind of curious, what's going on in New Hampshire? What's happening there? Why did they say this thing? This is just wrong, isn't it? But then people started sharing stories about how they had their kid learn this in this one job and learn that in this one job. And it makes total sense to me. When we homeschooled, we did kind of this guerrilla working thing where our daughter was working from age 10. She had her own company. She was running a dojo. She was doing all of this stuff where
10.
It wasn't allowed. Well, she wasn't running a dojo. By 16, she was actually running a dojo. But this wasn't allowed. This isn't allowed by the government, right? But we're doing everything hidden and super secret and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden we got all these stories, and people start going to go, oh, that's interesting. And about 6 months later, we actually passed a bill in New Hampshire that eased off on all the child labor laws that prevent things, And of course, the regime's upset. You want to send children down into the mines. And you want to,
of course.
Oh my God.
Of course. Yeah.
So there's this big tension between, should we look respectable? There's the old guard is kind of, the duopoly looks like this, so therefore we should look like that. Well, we are a guerrilla movement. We are this teeny tiny little fragment of a segment. They have practically half the population, so they're going to look very boring. And so we have to do something different, right? We have to do something different. So there was that giant battle going on. the new guard won the control of the party, but they lost, and the old guard won the candidates. And so now, if you look at American Twitter, you can see that battle continuing on, that tension going on right now. Now, I find it, I came back, and I have to say I was a little bit depressed because my candidate didn't win. I like the guy who said, if the regime isn't attacking me, I'm not doing my job.
Yes.
If the regime
Mhm.
likes me, boy,
And who
I
said
really
that?
messed up.
Who was the one who said that?
He's a professor type. His name is Michael Rechtenwald.
Yeah, I know Michael Rectenboy. He's even following me on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
But no, actually, I made a video about the recent events, even in the United States. And Michael Rectenwald is he was present, of course, because he was supported by Dave Smith, and Dave Smith has a huge audience. But I said that to my German audience. Michael Rectenwald sat at Tim Pool, and he really impressed me because Tim Pool came up with this idea. Tim Pool has often a lot of interesting topics, right? And they were talking about the issue of property rights and how only people, so humans can get property rights because they have reason and animals don't. But on the other hand, we are currently with AI teaching cars like to stop when they see a human. And at what moment would you start to give actual artificial intelligence property rights? And at this moment, when I heard that question at Tim Pool, right, I just for a short moment thought about, what if you had asked that Joe Biden or Donald Trump or anyone, right? That's such a difficult question. How can you really have a good answer, a really good response at the middle of the moment to that? And Michael Rechtenwald just looked at the camera and said, that's a really interesting question. I wrote a book about that. And I was so impressed. Michael Rechtenwald I knew him already before he was a libertarian candidate because he was at the Mises Institute. I listened to his podcast Rec from time to time, and he's a smart guy. I think highly of him. But then there was this crazy story that he ate an edible before his speech or something like that. He ate a gummy bear because he thought it would relax him. And so at that moment he was high on stage. Is that true?
Yeah. So the story goes like this. Basically, what he's gotten into, he has this professorial speech pattern, like he's talking to a class, and it turns people off. So what he's actually been doing is he's been taking like a hit or two of pot, and it relaxes him and makes him kind of smoother speaking and sounds better and stuff like that. But he didn't have his little vapor thing to do, and so somebody gave him a gummy bear, but it was like one of these ridiculous gummy bears of like 80 milligrams or something. It was just like this absolutely insane thing.
It smashed him. Yeah, okay.
and other people actually got the same one, and they also just totally lost it. Well, so he took it just thinking, okay, it's just gonna it's gonna be the same, but he didn't. For some reason, he hadn't realized he talked before Trump. He hadn't realized that he was going to be talking also after Trump.
Yeah.
He thought he was done, with the talk before Trump. So he took it right before then. He came out. He gave a talk. I don't think he's the best speaker. He's a guy with a good mind, and I'll give you an example of it in just a second. But I'm a nerd too. So what the heck, if I were to complain because somebody can't speak well, like me, I can't speak well, but he's got a really good mind. Well, I'm condemning myself, right? So he comes out, and he's just, at some point he realizes he's just too high for this conference, and he goes, "Okay, I'm just not going to say anything more." And he kind of walks off the stage, and it was like a Biden moment, You know how Biden sometimes will be talking, and then all of a sudden he just stops talking. He goes, "Never mind." But Michael actually had a reason. He was just too high. So I'll tell you why I was so high on Michael Rectenwald. So we invited all the candidates out to come and talk to us in New Hampshire, but we're a teeny tiny state with few delegates, and there's various reasons why they might not come. Michael actually came out, and we did our explanation of what we're doing and stuff like that. About an hour and a half or 2 hours into our conversations of where he starts understanding the community that we're building and the politics that we're winning and all this type of stuff, and the general concept of bringing libertarians together as opposed to having them disperse, and bringing them together, and then from the bottom up creating a liberty society. He goes, oh yeah, no, I want to do that. I'm going to move here after the election. So he basically announces in the middle of this thing that he not only understands what it is that we're doing, but he's on board, and he's going to move here afterwards. So we were all excited about that. I was really excited about that. Now, I gave the same offer to Chase, at least at PorcFest, and his response, or his team's response, was, I don't think they're our target audience. Now, the most base libertarians in the world, right, is not your target audience. I mean, let's just say that really impressed us. That really impressed us in a negative way. And then he also came here another time, and he talked to people. He never came and talked to the libertarians. He talked to there was a thing of where it was all the third parties. So he talked to primarily a bunch of socialists, and I think he came in second or something. So he actually did well in the debate, but he never came and talked to us. And we the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, which is a very teeny tiny part of the libertarian movement in New Hampshire. So the Libertarian Party would have been happy to talk to him, but there are also all these libertarians who would have probably wanted to talk to him. And he kind of just like, not my cup of tea.
Okay.
And a lot of that is because of our base messaging, our in your face messaging, right? Because he wants to present professional. I'm just like Joe Biden. I'm just like, not like Donald Trump, but I have this aura of professionalism, and you should vote for me because, and he's targeting kind of the average Joe person, maybe a little bit more on the woke side. And of course, we're so far out there, we're trying to target just the average libertarian, right? So it's just different segments and things like that. But, you get that different of a reaction, and seriously, those were the two extremes reactions that we got, right? We got one guy who basically said, oh, that makes total sense to me. I'm definitely coming here because I want to build liberty for real, and this is the place to do it. So I'm moving here after the election. And another guy goes, I don't want to visit you guys. You guys are just too wild. I'm going, we're building liberty for real, guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I came back from the convention. I was a little bit depressed and stuff, and some of the people were asking me on Twitter, whom are you going to vote for? What are you going to do? And I have to say, RFK's speech was brilliant. It was so well targeted to the libertarian argument. Trump couldn't write. I mean, Trump's writers, it was like they didn't know what libertarians were. He cited this guy, D. Roy Williams. He said, D. Roy Williams is a great libertarian. And, he wrote an article about me. And everyone's like going, do you know who this D. Roy is?
Yeah, I don't know either. I made a video about it. I had no idea who
knows him.
He
He's
was
like some
addressing
conservative on the Hill, or I don't know what it is. And he's like going, D. Roy, are you out here, D. Roy? We're just laughing, and that's his appeal to us is, D. Roy's behind him.
But
whereas
actually, I just think that's like how Trump is. I actually think that was on purpose, like to insult the Libertarian Party
he's just clueless. He wasn't at the point of insulting us yet. He actually did go into insulting, but at that point he was trying to endear us by bringing up one of our great heroes, D. Roy. Nobody knows D-Roy. And then he actually, another thing he said, I got the endorsement of the NRA. Well, the NRA.
Yeah.
NRA for libertarians is a dirty word.
Yeah.
Because they have so often gone ahead and said, oh yeah, well, we'll be in favor of bans on this. We'll be in favor of bans on that. Yeah. So they're kind of been co-opted by the system. Yeah. And so libertarians just think they're awful. And you'll find most libertarian gun owners are not NRA members. They have other memberships.
I mentioned that in my video as well.
So he got booed. He got booed for it. Mm-hmm. And he's like looking kind of like, wait, now that was supposed to be an applause line.
But still, I think what he did after that was kind of smart, because he offered libertarians a place in his cabinet, and he said he made like 2 or 3 libertarians I mean, of course, it's Trump. Nobody knows what he actually does after he said everything, and he's always talking like in hyperboles, and he's always the best guy who does everything. I know, but still. He's offering that. He said it, and he repeated it at Tim Pool afterwards in the 70 minutes with him as well. And he at least made the impression that he wanted to work with libertarians together, which I don't think any Democrat would do.
No, I don't think they would either. But I mean, you give a cabinet position to D-Roy Williams. Have you really given it to a libertarian? That's true. I mean, if that's his model of a libertarian, it's not a libertarian, So I just doubt it. Anyway, RFK, he was so good. The first thing that he did that was the most remarkable was he talked about the Milgram experiment. Do you know about the Milgram experiment?
Yeah.
So the Milgram experiment is where subjects come in and they are asked to do this little experiment to give increasing levels of shock to another subject that they had met in the waiting room. So they just know them as a human. It's actually an actor who is doing it. Increasing levels to the point of death, right? And so, as the person makes mistakes, you're supposed to increase it and increase it. And this guy in a lab jacket, and that's all he has. He just has a lab coat on. Says, increase the voltage and give him another shock, increase the voltage. And the people, and this has been done over decades, across cultures, across different types of people and ages and demographics. 2/3 of people will kill you if a guy in a lab coat tells them to. So they some of them get really upset. They're crying and stuff like that. But the guy in a lab coat told me to do it. So they'll go ahead and do and increase. And so he went into great detail about this, because this is the core problem of libertarianism, right? If the vast majority of people will kill you just for a guy in a lab coat, now think if they start wearing all the vestments of the state, the flags and the pledge and the magic ballot box, right? Now that 2/3 goes up to 90-95%. But anyway, he ends his talk and he says, in this segment, he says, the people who got up and walked out and said, F you, I will not kill this man. Those were libertarians. And he's right. Some small segment of those were the libertarians. That's whom we're looking for. It's a much smaller segment that he thinks, right? Because you have to add in all those decades of propagandizing that, the state tells me what to do, and I will salute and I will murder this person because this guy tells me to. But yeah, those are libertarians. And and that is the core problem that libertarianism faces, and the reason why we're in the free state movement here. Our solution is we can't live with those guys. They will kill us. They will kill us if a ruler tells them to. We can't live with them. They're not. I have a thing. They're not your effing friends. The idea being look, if they don't respect you enough to honor your self-ownership, that they can't be your friends. They might be friendly. Maybe, you can chit chat with them and stuff like that. You can share, talks about a movie or sports. You can laugh with them. You can go out to dinner. They're not your friends, because when push comes to shove, it's Hutu versus Tutsi. Yeah, they're looking for Anne Frank's
Diary.
room, and the people are pointing. Right? It's those are the people. So he talked about that. He talked about how that the Bill of Rights, he was revolving this around the Bill of Rights. He said it's all about respect of your sovereignty, of your ownership, respect of your choices. And he went through all these things, your choice of associations, your choice of speech, and your choice of, and I'm going, damn, this guy knows it. Now, if he had said your choice of foreign dictator to send your money to, he might have gotten my vote. He didn't do that. No, that's still his prerogative. So if he says that he's going to go and send his, we have to send our money to Israel to kill Palestinians, I'm out for it. But anyway, so I come back from the convention, and I'm depressed, right? And I'm going, oh, Chase, this guy, he's so woke, he's so this and that. And it took me 2 days. But at the end, I was going, at the very least, if a vote for Chase isn't voting for a mass murderer, right? It's not voting for someone who's going to extort me and have the money go and sent over to kill innocents all over the world, right? So, I mean, I would have to actually make a decision that I would be part. I support that. And I can't do that, and not me as an individual. So I'm glad just in this country that we have a libertarian place to place our vote, and that we can say to the warmongers and to the extorters and to the people who try to enslave us, no, we don't want that. So I'm happy to have Chase as a person to vote. Is he my cup of tea? Is he the person that ideally I would like to have? No. Is Rechtenwald? No. I mean, we had a great candidate, Dave Smith, who dropped out, unfortunately. He would have been ideal. He's so good in speaking and talking to these issues, and he's consistent. And he's very entrepreneurial. He's very daring. He's not scared of the state and their apologists and the regime media. So I would have been ecstatic about it. But I mean, I have a place to place my vote and happy to do it. I know a lot of people who aren't, though. We have a lot of libertarians who are still so upset. And they're threatening, oh, I'm going to vote for Trump. And then some of the people are saying, I'm going to vote for RFK. I just think it's going to be hard for them to actually get in that booth and vote for somebody whom they know is going to mass murder innocents, hundreds of thousands of innocents. They're going to extort them to mass murder them. I just don't think it'll be interesting. With all this bravado and this, kind of walking around, I would hope that when they actually get in that booth, they're going to go, but we're so few. So, the upshot is the Libertarian Party, we were always looking at 0.3% to 0.6%, 0.7%, on the high side, because we aren't just going after, when we have just the duopoly candidates, the Libertarian Party gets the benefit of the I hate both of those guys. Let me just park my vote here, right? But now they have RFK to park their vote. So now it's 3 people. And
is he now a libertarian candidate, RFK?
No,
he is not.
He's an independent candidate.
Yeah.
So he's running. So we have a Republican who will beat Trump unless the Democrats successfully throw him in jail. But even if he goes to jail, he'll probably still be nominated, and he'll probably still win the Republican candidacy. We have Biden, who I suspect they're going to try to get him out and put someone else in. He's just so doddering, and he's so unpopular, even amongst the Democrats. And so they'll put some other authoritarian progressive in there who looks better, smiles better, and can actually form a sentence without stumbling and falling down off the stage. And then we have Kennedy, who is, he's darn smart. And he's a ballsy guy. I mean, I think both Trump and Kennedy get awards for ballsiness for walking into the Libertarian convention, because the Libertarians are libertarians because they don't believe in this in the politics of these two parties, and they don't believe in foreign interventionism like Kennedy does, and they don't believe in all this type of stuff. Now, both of them were ballsy for saying, I want their votes, and I'm going to make a case. That's you have to hand it to them. And libertarians, because we're so isolated all the time, we recognize someone having balls. We go, all right, you get a point there. We're going to listen to you. Trump, he gets points for being stupid. I mean, I would fire my speechwriter. It was like, man, you don't know anything about it. Why couldn't you hire? You could have hired. Pay me $100,000 and I'd tell you what to say. Now would he say it? No, he wouldn't say it, because what he needed to say was something like, okay, my first term, I really wanted to do all these good libertarian things, and the deep state tricked me. They lied about me being a Putin puppet for 2 years, had me under investigations and stuff like that. They lied to me about taking troops out. They lied to me about this. They lied to me about that. And I was just totally bamboozled. But now I've got their number. And what I'm going to do is I am going to appoint these bright libertarian people, and I'd be specific on the names, to help guide and really bring freedom forth in the U.S. If he had said that, he would have gotten incredible cheers. As it was, he got a cheer because he said that he would remove from jail a political prisoner named Ross Ulbricht, who is in for 2 life sentences because he created an internet free market where on that market, not he, but on the market that he had created, people were selling, prostitution and drugs and things like that. He got 2 life sentences for that, which absolutely outrages us. We had, I was part of the, I was actually an initiator of a party that we had on Friday night called Enemies of the State. Yeah. And what we did was we brought together 5 enemies of the state: Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Roger Ver, Ian Freeman.
Roger Ver?
Ver, yeah, he's a Bitcoin Jesus.
I know. He was on Keith Knight the other day, and he wrote something against Bitcoin and for everything else. This Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Satoshi vision.
Well, he was arrested.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes, he's in jail right now in Spain, waiting extradition to the U.S.
I didn't know that. What happened there?
Oh, it's the typical trumped up charges. They're saying that he didn't pay enough. He basically renounced his U.S. citizenship, and you have to pay some sort of thing, and some sort of fee in order to renounce your citizenship and get out from the U.S. And so he basically renounced his U.S. citizen like a decade ago, and now they're going after him because they said he didn't pay enough, and so they have him. They have him in the same jail where another libertarian hero was actually. We think he was murdered, so we're very nervous. But anyway, so we had this hall, and Ross Ulbricht was the 5th one. We had this hall of all the enemies of the state, and we had people coming and speaking to each of them. Some of the enemies actually sent us videos. We had Julian Assange's brother there who spoke a little bit. But the idea was, look, we're doing this liberty thing. and you guys think it has to do with the convention, and it has to do with all these I move this, and I have a point of order and point of personal privilege. No, it has to do with fighting this horrible monster who is torturing people in jail, or as in Assange. I mean, they basically made him almost insane. And that's what we're fighting. This is the purpose. This is our goal. So that's the reason why we wanted to create that party. RFK said that he would pardon both Snowden and Assange. And Trump said that he would pardon Ross, and that he was considering dropping charges on Assange.
Yeah, well, he was not sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, but I walk into the Libertarian Party and you not be Jesus.
He at least said he would completely commute the case of Ross Ulbricht. He was only putting the case of Julian Assange under investigation so far that I've seen it. I mean, it's better than nothing. I think so. But do you think you have actually... even if you don't achieve really your goal with the Libertarian Party or with libertarian politics at all, do you think you put maybe, even if it's small, some kind of influence when you hear to a speech of Donald Trump and you have so many people in the crowd and they are listening to Trump? And honestly, when I watched it and I just imagined for a moment to be there, it just like gave me goosebumps that you were standing in a crowd with hundreds of people and Donald Trump is in front of you and you just scream, "And the Fed," or "Free Ross." And actually you get a response for that. And he is looking at you, and it doesn't matter if he's never listening to you. You know, this message is out and everyone can watch it. And you have millions of views on that YouTube video. And everyone gets the message, and the Fed and Free Ross. And they just listen to it. They have to.
Yeah. One of the stupidest comments I heard was by one of the media. And she was going, "Why bring up someone's name if no one's heard of him?"
Who hasn't heard
I'm going, now remember, this is a regime media person who relies on advertising for her paycheck. That's how she makes her money. And I'm going, my goodness, woman.
I mean, I'm living in Germany and I know all the people you just told me.
Well, and after Trump mentioned that, Ross Ulbricht was like the number one Twitter, number one Google search for a long time. People were going, "Who's this guy?" And they wanted to find out about him and why is he in there now? Of course,
there's Hollywood movies about him.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for us, the media is really important. And it's hard to get good media because they love talking about how weird we are. And frankly, we are weird. We're by definition weird because we don't believe in the state. We don't believe that we should be owned by our rulers, that we don't believe that the Pharaoh owns us and that we have to build their pyramids. Otherwise, we should be beaten. We just do not subscribe to that view of the world. So we're weird already there, but we had to have characteristics that are very strange, very atypical, in order to get to that point where we have those beliefs. Those beliefs are a product of these characteristics that, I'm sorry, we are an unusual set of people. I did a tweet the other day of, we're bringing all these libertarians into one state. I said, what's going to happen after 2 or 3 or 4 generations of intermarrying libertarians with libertarians? And I said, I think we know. And my picture was a picture of all these Vulcans on Vulcan, the Star Wars Vulcan, like Spock.
Star Trek, right?
Yeah, Star Trek, like Spock. That's what we would become. We would become kind of this separate, like little, there would be a homo libertas.
Honestly, I have to admit I'd never watched Star Trek, but I think I get the idea.
Yeah, the idea is that we're already strange. We're very high on these very unusual characteristics, um, and and if we start specializing on that, like you would with to create a German Shepherd or a Saint Bernard or something like that, you're going to see that those characteristics coming out quite a bit. So anyway, that was the joke. That we'll create a whole new subspecies here in the Free State.
Yeah, but I totally agree, because I think that this can be important. You already mentioned it at the beginning that we are all indoctrinated by being in a public school, and they teach you government propaganda for I don't know, 13 years or something like that, and then get out of that. Good luck. That's a huge threshold you have to overwhelm first, because you can start to have your own free ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course it's the media, all the news broadcasts, right? They all have a government slant to it, a pro-government slant. But every single movie, all the TV shows, I've gotten to the point where I'm rolling my eyes so much I can't even see a show anymore. And my normie friends are going, why don't you just relax? And I go, don't you see the problem? This is a propaganda.
Yes, totally. I have a radar for that is so huge.
So anyway, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about in terms of the convention.
Yes.
I think I've mentioned most of the things. The Libertarian Party goes through these ups and downs. We're a separatist movement in the Free State. We believe that when there are just irreconcilable differences, just split up. You don't need to stay together. This whole idea of being forced into a monopoly is just so anti-libertarian. Well, how do we force into monopoly? Well, for the Free States, being forced into the monopoly of the United States government, that we're all controlled by DC, right? That the DC politicians control 50 different states. Absolutely insane, because Louisiana and California should not be controlled by the same laws. But the Libertarian Party really has these different factions, and I spent 3 months in delegate groups, mostly just as kind of research and trying to understand what's going on in the capital L libertarian movement and what they're thinking about. And I was just so shocked at the bitterness, at how they were tearing apart each other, and how much time they were wasted in the friction of internal party politics. And the solution is so simple. In the Free State, what we do when we have that problem is we split apart, we fork, and that's why we have over 100 different groups. These people want to do this, these people want to do that. There's no reason in having one group split apart and do two things. So
what I always have in my mind is the left has done that too. The left is doing that all the time. All these crazy Marxists, they only have differences in like really small, tiny fractions of certain parts, but they agree on basics. And this is what makes the left so strong. And we as libertarians, we just cannot do that somehow. No. That's so difficult. Like you are the exclusive owner of your own physically. You cannot even agree on that. How complicated is that?
Yeah, and instead of all that friction, all that fighting, all those months of fighting, you split up. Now all of a sudden, all that energy is available to do something, and these guys will do one thing. These guys will do something else. They don't have to agree. There's a couple things that they will agree to, and they can work together on that. But everything else, now the state is being attacked on two sides.
Yes.
Right. As opposed to not being attacked at all. Right. When you got these guys just fighting all the time and not doing anything, you're not even attacking the state. You're wasting all of your resources there. Not only that, but now you have these two repositories, and and a libertarian comes and goes, okay, I actually have two choices. I'm more like these people, as opposed to this guy comes and goes, boy, I'm not like that one monopoly, because they have those icky people in there. I don't want to be with those icky people. So it actually expands the number of people who are quote unquote libertarians. You work together in the areas that you overlap in. Great. And then otherwise you're just attacking the state. It drives the authoritarians crazy in New Hampshire, because we have so many different individual groups doing so many different things. They're looking for that one person whose head they can lop off and kill the movement. Yep. Right? Because they think in terms of authoritarianism, right? This is us, and we're grouping into different groups all the time and stuff like that. And the authoritarians are going, whose head do we lop off? We can't find a head to lop off to stop this, because it's like a tide coming at you, right? So I made the case over and over and over again at the Libertarian Party that we needed to fork, we needed to split up. And that we would have, it would be so much easier. My guess is that one group probably wouldn't even put in a presidential candidate. They would spend their time doing kind of more local elections. And I'm actually hoping that they would do something where they consolidate in each state and take over a town. The other one, they're all big into like the looking good, and so they would put a presentable candidate up, and I'm fine. I just want to attack the state. I don't know how we're going to win. We haven't been winning. We have 6,000 years of enslavement to rulers. The libertarian movement is 60 years old, 70 years old, something like that. The modern movement, and we're still searching. We got 25 different strategies. The most successful strategy, I'll tell you right now, is the free state movement, and yet even libertarians don't even know about it, or they know about it and go, oh yeah, well that's something that goes up in New Hampshire. It's like, no. This is a worldwide movement of getting all the libertarians in one place. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be a very interesting election year. I hope that the libertarians signal at least that we are anti-war by voting for Chase. And I know that there's a lot of people who just can't do it because of other positions that he's taken and other ways he's been. But God, would you really vote for a mass murderer? And then, the thing I keep on coming to, Andreas, is, let's say that there's a heaven and I go up and they say, okay, were you a good man or were you an evil man? And they say, well, there were all these wars and they were mass murdering people. I see that you paid for those. Now I'm going to have a case. Look, I didn't really have a choice. I did do these things to try to not pay as much. And I tried to do these things to try to stop paying, but they really controlled it. Now they're going to say, well, did you vote for these mass murderers? Did you give them your seal of approval? And I can say, no, I did not vote for the mass murderers. And that's really kind of where I woke up on Tuesday, and I kind of gotten over my butt hurt, just being upset and saying, all right, I understand. I'm okay. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'll be voting for Chase. I may not be 100% on board, but at the very least, I know for certainty that he will not be extorting me. That if he won, which he's not going to, if he won, he would not be extorting me to mass murder, and he would not be mass murdering. And I couldn't, in good conscience and sleep that night, vote for one of the mass murderers. It's just be too hard for me. So that's where I am coming out of it. And like I said, we're seeing so many. If you look at Twitter right now, it is battling. People are battling all over what to do, and good people announcing, I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm going to vote for RFK. And I hope that they're just going to take their time and think this one through.
Um, is that still a thing among libertarians to not vote at all? Because
Yes.
that's at the moment the biggest stuff in Germany. There are of there are a very few left wingers, and they vote for. Well, I don't know how familiar you are with German party system, but of course we don't have only two parties, but a lot more, and we have a lot of small parties. And normally for the Bundestag, the German Parliament, which is not for the upcoming elections, this is the European Union, but in there is a 5% threshold, and I think we have like 5-6 different parties who will go there. None of them is libertarian, but the most right-wing conservative party, the AfD, is for the most people who might call themselves libertarians, the party which they will give their votes. But on the other hand, I always tell the people, this is a current thing. If this switches over the power, then it will be the other way around, and you will go to the left-wing socialists, and because now they are in the opposition, and they will tell you that they are for liberty, when the conservatives tell you they are in power now and they are starting to become authoritarian. So I think there are. I told that a lot about, so don't vote at all, don't participate in that system, and now I'm actually telling people to vote for a really small libertarian party, and all the people want to hear from me is that the libertarian party will actually be successful, and I tell them, well, this will most definitely be not the case, but what do you expect me to do? We have to start somewhere. So this is like the situation we are in Germany. It's a shithole. It's not working out in any case.
Yeah, the primary reason why I mean, I've voted every single election. The primary reason I vote is to signal. It's to signal other libertarians, other people who might possibly be thinking about this. Right? Because you're absolutely right. The one thing that the authoritarian conservatives and the authoritarian progressives both agree, they own you. So it's just a matter of what labor they have you doing. And you can say, well, it's really important for me to do this for them, or that. For me, I'm going for freedom. So what I'm trying to do is seed that liberty group, to start building it up. Now, since I've moved to New Hampshire, though, it's totally different, because we have real liberty people. Now they're in the mostly in the Republican Party. It's interesting. Our first free stater who got into office was actually in the Democratic. He got into the Democratic Party, and he won and got into the House. So he was our first House member. But right now it's mostly Republicans that we can vote for, and I have to tell you, it's incredible, because up until now, I've never been on a winning campaign. And now, did that bother me? No, because I don't want to be a winner with a mass murderer. That's I don't understand. This isn't a soccer game, right? This is I support this person, and this person's doing incredible evil things, and I just won't do it. But now I'm supporting people who are doing incredibly good things, removing evil from the world, and what a relief it is! Oh my goodness, it's such a relief. I have a place. I have a place now to park my presidential vote. I don't know what I'll do with my my Senate vote. I know what I'm going to do with my governor. We're going to run a libertarian for governor, so I know what we'll do there. But then there are people whom I know I can vote for and feel good about. And what's more is I'm actually spending more money here on political campaigns than I've spent anywhere else. I maxed out on Ron Paul's campaign in '88, and then in 2008 and 2012. And I think that's the most I've ever given any candidate. And remember, I also gave him money in I think it was '84 and '86, and then in the '90s I also gave him money when he returned back to office. So Ron Paul's probably gotten more money from me than I've given any other politician. But here I'm giving local people who are making runs, people I really trust, I know, who are really, 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 really good libertarians. They just happen to be able to put on a suit and tie, and they're able to go into these meetings and pretend to be pledging allegiance to the flag, which I can't do. And they're getting into office. They're doing really, really good work. So it's such a relief being here. I'm so glad, because I'm at the end of my life. I'm going, I wish I had been here as a young man, because I wasted so much of my life tilting at windmills, bashing into walls that, where I just was never, ever, ever going to get any success. And here, you can have here the same amount of energy is just going to actually progress, and you'll get success. But it's just so much fun, because you succeed and you go, usually I put in this much work, I'm going to put in this much work now, because you get that positive feedback loop. Whereas the Libertarian Party and the Authoritarian 49, that is a negative feedback loop. That is a loop set up to discourage you and to have you give up, despair and give up. Yeah. So my job coming out of here will be doing this Freetown project, where I'm going to be working with individual states on what they would need to do, given the lessons of the freest part of the world ever. And this concentration strategy, this intentional migration, we now know so much more, and we can teach it to people. And so I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing it for states, and I could do it for countries as well.
Yeah, well, we are already close to 2 hours now, and I think we should leave it right there. But there was such an interesting talk. I could have this conversation for hours again, and I think we should meet up again, because I want to talk a little bit more about the Free State Project of New Hampshire itself. There are so many Germans who are talking about leaving the country, fleeing the taxes and everything else, and though the most goals where the people are going is probably more Switzerland, or maybe even, I don't know, Argentina, South America, somewhere. I think I already had a talk with Lucas, and New Hampshire is pretty interesting. There is for most Germans, no barrier for language. And so I think I would like to promote the idea from New Hampshire. It's far away, but I still think it's so interesting. I should come and visit New Hampshire from one time. And on the other hand, I want to discuss a little bit strategies of how your Free State project could work in Germany or in Europe as well. But I would like to get so deep into details for that. I think I'm challenging my audience right now with 2 hours, and we should do that on another occasion. But Dennis, thank you so much for talking to me. And I will see forward to having another discussion again for other topics. If you like, are there any last words? What do you want to tell my German audience?
Well, if you could put up with English language, definitely follow me on Twitter. Dennis Pratt Free.
Yes, I will link that in the video description.
If you're at all interested in visiting the United States, don't go to one of the Authoritarian 49s. Come to the freest state. I will give you a half price off deal at my inn. I have an inn called the Independence Inn. You have to DM me, though. This is not available to authoritarians. But I will give you half price off. Stay for a week, at least a week, and just take every single day, go in a different compass direction. Go up to the lakes, go out to Moose Mountain, go down to the ocean, go down to Exeter, go to the Merrimack Valley of the river, go to Concord, where our state house is, go up to the mountains. So every single day, go to a different geographical region and meet with the porcupines. That's what we call ourselves, the porcupines that are there. And if you look at our events page, every day has 2 to 10 different events. And so just pick one. Go there, go to the public event, and meet the people, talk to them, say, hey, I'm from Germany. And they'll tell you everything that you need to know. You'll really enjoy it. It will be a porcupine vacation. It's not going to be a trip to Disney World. This is Disney World for libertarians. So come out and come and visit us.
All right. I'll leave it with that. Thanks a lot.